Hi, I'm Steve Parker, a member of the Rob Branham Foundation. Rob was an amazing individual. He was such a positive person. He was such a great friend. He was part of my personal support system. Rob was always there for me through the darkest hours of my life. He was always there to say, hey, this too shall pass. We'll get past this, Steve. There's always something positive with Rob. Unfortunately, we lost Rob after a valiant fight against leukemia back in 1993.
We ran together most mornings at 5:30 in the morning, and one morning, about a year after running the New York Marathon, we're running together. It was a winter morning, and Rob told me that he had leukemia, and I just said, you have leukemia? I don't believe it. That's got to be a mistake. He was the healthiest guy I knew, and unfortunately, sure enough, he was stricken and eventually was determined he needed a bone marrow transplant. 2 days before he went to the hospital, on a Monday, we climbed Mount Monadnock, and something that Rob wanted to do. Mount Monadnock is up in southern New Hampshire, and Rob, we talked about doing it for a while, and knowing he was going to go into the hospital and fight for his life, he said, let's do this before I go into the hospital. So we did that. The day he went into the hospital, we met as we normally do on 5:30 in the morning. It was a Wednesday, and after we finished running, I said, well, Rob, good luck, and we gave us our goodbyes. And Rob said, wait a minute, before you go, I got something for you. And Rob gave me this beautiful retro radio in the shape of a 1950s Chevy dashboard. Rob was giving me a gift, and here Rob was going into the hospital about to fight for his life, and unfortunately lose that fight, and yet he was thinking more about me, for being friends, and for our relationship. He gave me a gift, and we all expected Rob was going to beat this, get through it, and get back healthy and go on with his life. And the one thing he did say is when he got better, got back on track, he wanted to help other families stricken by this terrible disease, and wanted to do something. So when Rob did pass, shortly thereafter, Rob's wife Lynn, Steve, and a few others, myself, we started the Rob Branham Foundation to help families in need and to try and make a difference.
We know what Rob would do. He'd continue to fight against leukemia, and that's what the foundation is all about. Please take a look at some of the work that we've been doing throughout the last few years.
The overall mission of the foundation is to provide support and services to leukemia patients and their families. And initially, working with leukemia patients and their families was really our primary focus and our only focus. However, we've expanded that a little bit over the years, and we're working now not only with leukemia patients and their families, but also working with families of patients who have other blood-related diseases. So we have expanded a little bit in that regard. We've also expanded the types of things that we do. Initially, we were focused primarily on providing testing so that people could be entered into the registry. However, we've also begun in the last few years to provide direct support to families, and especially financial support.
When you're diagnosed with an illness, unfortunately for me, I was released of my job duties about 5 days prior to my bone marrow transplant, which was very shocking to me. Again, I did not know how any of this process worked. When you're unable to return to your job after a certain amount of time, apparently they have the right to release you. And at that point in time, you have the option to go on COBRA insurance. And when you're on COBRA insurance, a lot of people do not realize how costly it is. COBRA insurance for myself, my wife, and my child was roughly $800 a month. And that can just cause a tremendous amount of strain for a family that's trying to make a mortgage payment, that's making a car payment, and you wonder how you're going to financially withstand all of this. And that's when the foundation came to my aid. I wouldn't be sitting here today on a financial leg if it wasn't for them. Again, without their assistance, I would have no doubtedly had to file for bankruptcy, because there's just no way that a family can withstand that type of financial burden.
The other thing that we do quite a bit of is provide emotional support to family members and to patients themselves who are in the hospital and going through transplant and aftercare.
Lynn Branham would spend hours on the phone with my wife, just offering her support. It's so therapeutic to speak to somebody who's been through it and can offer advice and wisdom. I was frightened that I was going to leave my wife behind and my newborn child, and she offered me a lot of hope. Do not ever hesitate to contact the Rob Branham Foundation, because with a drop of a hat, Lynn would be there in an instant for you and your family.
The foundation has never advertised the fact that we're available to help families. We tend to find families, however, through connections that we have. One of our very first direct supports to a family came through the nurse manager at St. Francis Hospital. We found another family who we recently worked with through a newspaper article. We just hear about people who are in need, and we try and respond as quickly as we can.
I suddenly one day got a phone call from Lynn Branham saying that they were going to be here for me, and I guess she heard about us through town, through the different media things that were being done for Laura, and she called me, and it was an instant friendship and support from her and her organization.
I think the thing that makes the Rob Branham Foundation different is the fact that we try to keep it easy for the people we work with. We try to eliminate all the red tape so that we can respond to them at the drop of a hat, because from our perspective, quick response is what's going to help them relieve the stress that they're feeling because of a financial situation or an emotional situation. We'd rather stick with a family and go all the way with them and know that we really made a difference. And I think that really sets us apart.
They provided assistance on more than one level. One was the emotional level of calling, letting me vent, share, cry. Lynn had been through it, so she knew exactly the talk that I was talking and the fears and the anxiety that goes with it. On the financial end, they were wonderful to us. They helped to take care of my mortgage, automatically, no questions asked, deposited money into the account to use towards my mortgage, as well as helped to pay for a substantial part of Laura's funeral bills at the end. And they're still helping us. They make it easy. They help you maintain your pride. They let you know that they're there economically. They let you know that they're there for you emotionally. They decide that there's a need, and they're right there.
The other thing that we do is work with the New England Marrow Donor Program. Most of our support for them is in the way of financial support for testing. But we've been working with the NEMDP ever since the foundation was founded back in 1994. That's the arm through which we do testing drives and we support testing drives.
At any given time, 3,000 patients are searching the registry looking for someone who might be a potential match who might be able to save their life. The Branham Foundation has been phenomenal. More than 1,000 donors have been added to the registry right here in Connecticut simply because the Branham Foundation came forward and sponsored the drives, paid for the testing.
I guess our immediate future is to continue on the same path that we've been moving on, to provide services to families directly especially, and to continue our fundraising efforts. We definitely plan to build up support for our organization and to really increase awareness of what the foundation does. The other thing that I don't think we'll ever move away from is trying to build awareness about the need for transplantation.
It's just a wonderful group of people that treated us as family members, that brought us into their home, so to speak, and said, we're going to help you.
It's a small organization, it's local, you know where the money is going and you know who you're helping, and I think that makes a difference.
I think people need to know that when you're living with someone and fighting a battle with someone that you know may or may not have good outcomes, that you need to let your pride down, because the bottom line is that you have to be there for that person. It's a very hard thing to turn to somebody and say, I need help.
If you'd like to find out more about the Rob Branham Foundation or become part of our support system, visit Rob's house at robsfoundation.org.